Good evening. My name is Jose Sogard from the Office of Nightlife. Before we begin tonight, just some general house rules. Please turn in your comment card as soon as possible if you wish to speak tonight, so that we can manage public speaking in an orderly way. Everyone will have 2 minutes to speak, and we ask that you please be respectful of everyone's time and each other. If you are not able to speak tonight, you may submit your comments via email, which we will have on screen throughout the night. As well, we will have 3 more listening sessions over the course of the next 6 weeks, beginning in 2 weeks in Staten Island, followed by 2 weeks later in the Bronx, and 2 weeks later in Manhattan. That being said, I would like to introduce Stephen Hitt from our host this evening, Laguardia Performing Arts Center at Laguardia Community College. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Good evening, everyone. As he said, I'm Stephen Hitt. I'm the Artistic Director here of LaGuardia Performing Arts Center. And I'm here to welcome you on behalf of LaGuardia Community College. Our president, Dr. Gail Mello, wanted to be here, but unfortunately she fell at another event about a month ago and is walking around with a huge cast on her leg, so it's difficult for her to get up on stage. So, but she wanted me to make sure that you felt welcome and know that this community college is here to serve the community in any way that we can possibly help you. Just to give you an idea, we educate about 50,000 students a year right now. They range in educational programs. They represent Queens in a very real way. They come from all over the world. They represent about 195 different countries and speak 119 different languages. And they come to us hungry to learn and to gain skills to improve their lives and the lives of their families. We're also a part of the New York Nightlife as the LaGuardia Performing Arts Center, LPAC here. We develop new work for the stage in theater, dance, music, and those works then are going out to festivals, off-Broadway shows all over the world. And so we're very happy and excited about what we do. We've got academic majors that also nurture creativity skills and for the future artists that we have here. We've got facilities that are available for the community, such as the pool, the theaters, and they're available to come in, to be used, to be rented, to be a part of this community and a part of the nightlife too here. So that said, we're thrilled that the mayor has elevated the work around sustaining and enhancing New York's nightlife. And to talk more about that, and in this new office, I'd like to bring to the stage the new Senior Executive Director for the Office of Nightlife, Ariel Palitz.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you to the LaGuardia Performing Arts Center at the LaGuardia Community College for hosting us. And I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here tonight to address the important issues surrounding nightlife. I am Ariel Palitz, as he mentioned, the first Senior Executive Director for the newly created Office of Nightlife. And for those who don't know me or my story, I've basically been chosen and I'm here because I've been there. I'm a native New Yorker, grew up in Manhattan, and I also owned and operated my own nightclub in the East Village for 10 years. I served on a community board on the State Liquor Licensing Committee for 6 years, and I live above a bar. So I get it. This is the second of our 5-borough listening tour. And we're doing this to be able to hear your comments, your concerns, and your ideas. The Office of Nightlife was established to promote a safe and vibrant nightlife scene that's beneficial to all New Yorkers. We are a liaison between the city agencies, nightlife businesses, owners, residents, employees, patrons, and entertainers. But to understand the New York office better, I want to put it into a little global perspective for you. New York is now part of a global movement, a United Nations of nightlife, so to speak. Even last week, as many may have read in the New York Times, Washington, D.C. is now also creating its own Office of Nightlife. There are over 40 cities around the world and the country that have an Office of Nightlife now, that are working to proactively manage their nightlife and the nighttime economy. And they're getting results. In Amsterdam, some might argue maybe one of the only other cities a little more vibrant than ours, they have actually achieved quality of life improvements like a 30% reduction in crime and 28% reduction in noise complaints. Berlin recently announced the government is investing in soundproofing at venues and clubs. So New York has now joined this movement because it also recognizes nightlife's significance to our city and also to our place in the world. Nightlife is an ecosystem that includes us all. New York is a 24/7 city, and nightlife is the other 9 to 5. And this is my second PowerPoint presentation ever, so. As we all know, New York, as New Yorkers, nightlife is vital to our economy, our identity, and our culture. And it has given rise to movements like jazz and salsa, disco, hip hop, punk rock that has impacted the world. For some people, nightlife is their community and it is their world, a safe place to come together and to be themselves. Nightlife strengthens and protects our diversity. In order to help assess the economic value of nightlife, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, in which the Office of Nightlife is housed, is releasing an economic impact study by the end of this year. It shows that nightlife supports nearly 300,000 jobs, $48 billion in economic impact, and nearly $700 million in tax revenues citywide. As nightlife continues to grow, it will benefit from a more coordinated planning and proactive management and productive private and public partnerships. The creation of the Office of Nightlife is a sign of a new approach and a new hope that recognizes what nightlife contributes to the city while also addressing the challenges and impacts. The purpose of this 5-borough listening tour is to inform our office as we develop programs and initiatives that address the most important priorities to everyone. The Office of Nightlife is not an enforcement agency, and it is not meant to be a silver bullet, but we are looking to create systemic solutions and find a balance. We want to support businesses with resources and education to help them be successful and better neighbors, but also to ensure safety and quality of life for everyone, to help ensure a stabilized nightlife that enables creativity and culture. We know this is a tall order, and it's going to take a lot of cooperation and understanding. The Office of Nightlife, housed within the Mayors of Media and Entertainment, has tremendous resources and a team under Commissioner Julie Menin. And I also have a strong core team at the Office of Nightlife, Jose Sogard, Ray Martin, and Francesca Mira. In addition, I'd like to also acknowledge that we also have a 14-person advisory board that was established by legislation and appointed by City Council and the Mayor as an independent body to make recommendations, independent of our office, to the City Council and to the Mayor's office. And many of them are here tonight also to listen. So I was also going to welcome one of our electeds who I think is here. Yay, hi. Jimmy, come on down. I would like to do your proper introduction, if you don't mind. Yes, our City Council Deputy Leader, Chair of Committee on Cultural Affairs, and representative of this district, Councilmember Jimmy Van Bramer. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say welcome and thank you. I know you have a brand new, very important job undertaking this very, very important goal of combining the appreciation for quality of life while also wanting to support a growing industry that is important to the city of New York. And I know you have all of these folks in uniform and all of these agencies who are going to be here to talk about it. But I know that my colleague, Councilmember Espinal, in Brooklyn is much younger and much hipper than I, so he goes to a lot more clubs and things like that in his district. But I also know that he cares deeply about the issues that come up very frequently. And I know your office, just as we have night mayors in lots of other cities across the world, can help bridge the gaps where they exist. And I know Andy Prashak and other folks who serve on the panel very well for a long time. So it's great that you're here in Queens. And I know Queens and Brooklyn have a lot in common, but we are also very different boroughs with lots of very different needs and concerns and questions that I'm sure will arise as part of your fact-finding and listening tour. But it's great that you're here. It's also great that you're here at LaGuardia Community College. I love LaGuardia Community College, and I know Stephen Hitt spoke earlier, but Alex and the entire team here do such a great job, and I know that the young people who go here and even some of the older people who go here probably have a lot to say to you as well. So good luck on your mission. I appreciate the outreach and both you and Andy making sure that I was in attendance today. But I am anxious to see the good work that you and the office are going to do on behalf of the people of the city of New York and most importantly, the people of Queens. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're really incredibly grateful to have elected officials in both city and state agencies here that really have agreed to come up on stage and sit with me tonight in order to listen to all of the concerns of people from within this industry and community, the owners, operators, entertainers, and residents. And far beyond this listening tour, we'll be hosting many more meetings. This is not just one chance to sit and speak with the Office of Nightlife and the city and state. We will be conducting many more meetings, both large and small, with the industry and community specifically. And so it is the beginning of the conversation. And it is also the beginning of the multi-agency work that we will all be doing as a city and state to address the nightlife issues like they've never really been done before in this holistic, cooperative manner. And so with that all being said, I am now extraordinarily honored and pleased when I get to the proper page to introduce the city and state agencies that have agreed to come on stage with me here tonight and to listen to you to see what the Office of Nightlife and our city can do for you. So please welcome your city and state agencies to the stage. The Department of Buildings, City Planning, Cultural Affairs, DEP, Environmental Protection, Health Department, NYPD, FDNY, State Liquor Authority, and the oath, trials, and hearings. Please join us if you are here. And Small Business Services, Commissioner Bishop. So grateful to have the Commissioner here today. Thank you so much.
Good evening. In just a moment, we'll begin the public comment section. If you have not yet done so, please fill out and submit your comment card if you would like to speak. And you may hand it in now at the front or to the ushers. We may not get everyone tonight, but your comments will be submitted for the record. We'll be calling you up to speak in groups of 3. The first group will come to one side of the room here in front of me, and the next group will be on deck on the other side of the room. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak, and we will be keeping time up here in the front. Please keep your comments respectful and brief. To ensure that everyone has time, agency staff will be in the lobby to hear any individual concerns at the end of the meeting. And you may submit additional comments to the email address posted here. I will now call the first group of 3 to come forward. To this side of the room, please. The first 3 speakers are L. Rary Curtin, David Stewart, and Justin Carter. And then following them, the next 3 speakers on the other side of the room will be Lucy Schiller, Morgan Greenstreet, and Chris St. Hilaire.
Ready when you are?
Great. You hold it, okay. Yeah, hi everybody. My name is David Stewart, and I am the chair of the 45th Street Block Association. I'm also on the steering committee for a new group that has been formed called Neighborhoods United. And I'm sorry.
That's all right, he can hold it.
Just a little bit, thank you. Just it's like freaking me out a little. Called Neighborhoods United, and the organization was started by. It's a group of 36 different community groups and residents from across the 5 boroughs who are extremely concerned with oversaturation of nightlife culture within our communities and the deleterious effects that we are seeing over and over again. So I actually had a couple questions, but I understand we're only limited to one. So I suppose the question I'd like to ask the most is, we have a nightlife advisory board who I believe you said are here tonight. And from what I understand, the vast majority of the 14 people on that nightlife advisory board actually make their living from the nightlife industry. I know, Julie, I'm sorry, Errol, you said that you owned a bar, and on your LinkedIn page it currently says that you make a living from, I think, venture associates in a real estate business.
That's inaccurate, actually.
Okay, well, it's actually on your LinkedIn page. It says 2016 to present. So we're just interested with, if there's only 5 tours across all 5 boroughs, we're kind of wondering how the community and how residents are going to be heard, and their voices are actually going to be heard by you folks who actually do some of the policing that we see on the violence and the vomiting and the public urination, et cetera. So how are we going to get a fair and unbalanced report when it seems like all the committees that are just making these decisions are stacked with people who are from the industry and making their living from the industry? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I actually really appreciate you coming tonight. I know we've met in the past, and we'll continue to meet in the future. I think it's worth noting that part of the reason why I was appointed was because I think I have a pretty balanced representation and experience with having owned a nightlife operation, but also having served on the community board, and also am a lifetime resident. The members that were chosen on the advisory board were not chosen by the Office of Nightlife, but appointed equally by the City Council and the Mayor's Office. And originally there were actually 12 members that it was supposed to be, but they expanded it to 14 in order to ensure more diversity. And as you know, there are community board members, district managers that are on the advisory board that don't have a lot of love for the industry as well. So, but I think it's also, and also that they have a 2-year term limit as well. That advisory board, I think, is also worth noting. And they are independent of our office and giving their own report. Our office at the Office of Nightlife is really genuinely a balanced look and has balanced care for not just those that run nightlife, but those who live in New York. And I think those that run nightlife and those that are patrons and employees, for the most part, are all residents of New York. And I think the polarity between nightlife and community is really a little bit more blurred because we all sort of live and work here together. And the way that we're looking at it, it's not just nightlife and community, it's about life at night and how we all sort of coexist when the sun goes down. And the reason why I have this multi-agency representation here is because we are going to approach this in a holistic way, in a proactive way that addresses not just supporting businesses, but about how we can mitigate the impact on this thriving industry so that it minimizes the effects on the quality of life. And I promise you that is a top concern for me and everyone on this stage. And far beyond the 5 mandated town hall meetings, this is not the beginning or the end. No, it is not. It is the beginning of a long conversation and many more meetings, and we will represent the residents as well as the industry as one whole New York community. And I look forward to showing that to you and to working with you. Thank you.
Excuse me, may I ask everyone to just please speak directly into the mic so that our recording can pick up your comments, please. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Rory Curtin. I'm co-owner of 7 bars and restaurants in the city, 2 of which are in Queens, the Bonnie and Sweet Afton. And my question is around security. Like any owner, our main concern is keeping our staff and our patrons safe above all else. We do employ an external security company who are really wonderful, but the economics of it can be difficult. In some of our locations, depending on where they are and how busy they are, we've got security 7 nights a week, but in other locations, you know, it might be just at the weekend evenings. A full-time security company every night of the year, you know, it can run up to $100,000, so economically it's quite a burden on a business. So my question is, I guess to the NYPD and the group as a whole, would there be some kind of a possibility of creating a recommended course of action or a course that we could send our staff to, similar to the Department of Health? Somebody on our premises must always have a credited Department of Health card that has, you know, shown that they've got the training to cover all areas of health within the business. There isn't anything really for that on the security front. It's a very difficult and tumultuous item for us to address, especially when our staff come to us asking for our advice on what they should do when trouble does come through the door. When trouble does come through the door, it's not always our fault. It can be a drug addict around the corner. It can be somebody falling out of a bar drunk from around the corner that comes into us. They're looking for alcohol. We turn them down. And you know yourself that quickly things can escalate and things can sometimes even turn violent. So my question is there a possibility of looking at some kind of a accredited system where we could send our staff to get trained on best practice with security within the hospitality and nightlife business?
Thank you so much. And I think this is a really great example of what we're hoping to achieve through these listening tours, is to hear what the issues are, but also to hear creative solutions. And I think I could speak for myself that it is absolutely a great idea that is worth looking into. I know with NYPD, even small business services could potentially be a source for some possible courses like that.
Right, I mean, good evening, everybody. I'm Deputy Chief Frank Vega from One Police Plaza, Chief of Department's office. At this time, we have no immediate plans on, you know, taking over the training for security guards for licensed establishments. With that said, obviously, there is requirements issued by the New York State Department that they're properly licensed to get that particular certification. Obviously, we kind of insist on that, if you're going to hire security guards, that they are properly licensed, bonded, and insured for the safety of yourself as well as the patrons of the establishment. Working together, many years ago, we created an advisory board ourselves with nightlife owners. Each patrol borough gave me an inspector. We created a nightlife hospitality advisory board in One Police Plaza where we meet regularly. And we came up with the very thing you just mentioned about best practices. We came up with a series of guides going back. We're actually on our 3rd edition now of best practices. My 2 borough inspectors here from Queens North and Queens South have copies of this best practice guides. And one of the sections in the guide does talk about security, the ratio of security guards to patrons, the licensing requirements, as well as a cadre of other things about sexual assaults, crime scenes, counterterrorism efforts, notifications to us, working hand in hand with your neighborhood coordination officer, your precinct commanding officer. So there's a litany of good information in this book that is available to you. And once again, as I go on later on, there's some other questions. Each particular borough has nightlife meetings every 3 months at the patrol borough level, so it's more of a grassroots approach to meeting with your representatives from the precinct, as well as the borough representatives to talk about specific issues each and every quarter in the borough office.
I would just like to add, obviously, safety and security is a top priority of this administration and to all city agencies and also to operators and to residents. It's the #1 concern and second to nothing else, not even to profit. So what we also hope to do on the website for the Office of Nightlife is create a one-stop shop of guidelines, best practices, and resources for all city agencies that have best practices and guidelines to be able to find them more easily. But I think I will explore even further seminars, workshops, to bring in professionals and to give further guidance and education.
I just want to clarify one thing. My question was really specific to staff members rather than security guards, because we do employ separate security companies, but this is when security would not be on duty and staff members are on their own late in the evening.
Gotcha.
Noted and understood. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you for hosting this listening tour. It's great to have a forum like this. My name is Chris St. Hilaire, and I represent the Sound Mind Collective. We're a group of musicians and artists whose careers rely on independent venues to thrive. According to the city's own studies, 20% of New York's small venues have closed over the last decade, and as economic conditions change, we're becoming increasingly concerned that New York City will not be able to sustain a diverse, equitable, and socially responsible music culture for much longer. Additionally, while the overall live music economy in New York continues to grow, wages for independent musicians and venue workers have gone below livable standards. This is all according to the city's own findings. We're left wondering how a nightlife industry can be, quote, economically and culturally vibrant if musicians cannot make a living and feed themselves. We would like to know if the Office of Nightlife will advocate for programs and policies that would protect the artistic spaces that we rely on and keep the profession of music sustainable. Such policies could be subsidies for small venues and for the musicians themselves to continue to keep the city what it is culturally. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you expressing this perspective, and obviously there's a lot of people in this room and in this city that agree that maintaining and protecting the ability to be the diversity that we are is a top priority. And of course, as being the Office of Nightlife, helping to find the best ways, to recognize the best ways that's being done, and to support that and advocate for that is definitely a priority. I think the mayor's office, it's also a very, a top priority for them, as the mayor signed the Fair Work Week laws recently, ensuring more predictable scheduling, stronger paid sick leave, and the Freelance Isn't Free Act also was recently enacted, ensuring timely payment for freelance. Something interesting and new that is being launched next week from the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment in Brooklyn is a Freelancers Hub, where entertainers and others in the freelance industry and entertainment can go and get information and resources on healthcare and other freelance support. And I also know that the city at large and city council are working on legislation that are dealing with the affordability of rents. I believe there's a hearing next week in city council regarding the Small Business Survival Act that people's voices really need to be represented at, and I recommend you call your local city council member to find out more about that upcoming hearing. But to answer your question, yes, it is a priority. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Justin Carter. I am a DJ and a musician, and that has all led to me being a venue owner. I own a place called Nowadays in Ridgewood. And I'm here today, not with any specific question for any of you, but a request for all of you and a request for anyone who's a community member who feels negatively affected by nightlife. And that is just a request for understanding and civility. I've been here since 1999, and my entire existence in nightlife has been in some ways colored by what felt like hostility from city agencies or from the city trying to clamp down on us. And in some ways I understand it. If you're a resident and you're bothered by constant noise, I totally get why you would call 311 because you just want peace. I get that. But the understanding that I would ask for is that what has ended up happening in our city is that there are so few places that we can go to actually make noise at night or have a good time at night that are away from residences, that it puts us in this place where if all we're trying to do is have a good time, we end up negatively affecting somebody's life. And so I think that if anyone who is meeting with a nightlife venue or interacting with the nightlife office can come to the table with the idea that the people who are sitting on the other side are not being antagonistic, but they are trying to just create culture. If you think about amazing cultural moments that have happened in New York City, so many of them have been connected to nightlife. If you think, just one example, like think about Stonewall and what that's created around the world. That happened in a bar. And there's so many other examples of things like that. I will also make the plea to other venue owners because I think it's important that we come to the table and act with responsibility as well, that you stay in touch with your community board, you stay in touch with your local police precinct. I've done that since we opened Nowadays, and it's made an incredible difference just in having an open dialogue with those organizations. So that's my piece. I don't need any question answered. I just wanted to make my voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Morgan Greenstreet. I'm also here representing the Sound Mind Collective with Chris and Alba. One of the things that we do is put on benefit shows to support mostly organizations that are involved in activism, using kind of our platform to raise money and raise awareness for things that are going on. But I really want to reiterate what Chris said about fair wages for musicians. I feel like there's a very big gap between the money that is being made off of music in this city, not only music, but particularly music, and the wages that musicians are living on in terms of live performance. Most of the income that musicians can really make is not from performing in clubs around New York. It's mostly from things like sync licenses. I'm talking about real wages that make a difference in our lives. So as a musician, I'm really wondering what the Office of Nightlife can do to support venues in the mid-range. I'm talking about 100 capacity to 300 capacity venues that will support a vibrant community music scene at a lower level that musicians can live on. This is something that's been going on in New York for a long time, and I feel is very threatened at this point, partly because there's no standards. So there is undercutting within the scene. There's no standards for what a fair wage, for what a relationship between a performing artist and a venue should be. And then I also want to bring up the list of other, the list of other cities that have an Office of Nightlife, particularly the European ones. I know they all, and I'm not sure whether these funds come through the Office of Nightlife, but I know that there are a number of venues, and I'm just talking about clubs, that do receive funds from the city government. So I'm wondering if that's something that you will be advocating for, so that more venues will be able to present more diverse programs at a more, I think, responsible economic platform.
Thank you so much for bringing this issue to light today, and I think that's a really important step in helping to bring attention, more attention to the issue. It's not just a question of what the Office of Nightlife can do, but it's also a question of making sure that this issue from the artist's perspective is constantly in a dialogue with the city and with each other, and making it an issue and making it a grassroots issue that we can help support you in doing. I think there's a lot of resources. I know that there are unions for musicians that could be strengthened perhaps and given better ideas and to be involved in, that we could also help to support if they are on the right track and doing the right thing. Workers' rights are extremely important to this administration and to this industry. And I think as we continue with the listening tour and move forward, that it's something that is obviously an important conversation. And as we recognize things, as I'm in this great position where so many resources are available, it will also be my job to make sure that it's communicated and supported, and that when there is a great resource, that you know it's there. And try to make it as systemically as available as possible. But it's important. Affordability and compensation and fairness for artists is definitely a priority. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call the next two groups of speakers, and please remember that we are calling speakers based on your submission of comment cards, and so please wait until your name is called to speak. So the next three speakers after our next speaker will be Rob Solano, Kimberly Olivier, Damon Biggs, and then the three speakers following that will be Brian Duran, Gary Taylor, and Ramik Parker.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Shalero. I'm president of the Coalition of United Residents for a Safer Community. And as you know, any civic leader, we're involved with 100 other things as well. I worked with residents, churches, businesses, and bars. Whenever we started having problems, I would visit the bars, see who I can reach out, as well as the owner of the property, and ask their help about noise, those that fight, those that vomit, those that create problems for our community, because we're up against two-family homes, and ask them if they can work with us. We've been very successful in some. As time went on, they moved on, or we got new people. But I have one problem. There are a few that keep coming back and giving us constant problem at the same location. And I'm going to give you one that hit the newspaper. It was called the Highs Club at 79th and Queens Boulevard. The Highs Club opened up, and before that we had other clubs before they gave us tremendous problems where the, the people inside, the bouncers would try to get these people out, and they would beat up on each other. And finally we said, we have to stop this. They keep coming back to us, the owners of the property said, look, I need to do this. I need to make my money. So this Highs opened up. And one night on October of 2014, they were advised by our precinct not to allow this one club or venue that they were going to have after hours. They made troubles in Brooklyn. They came by, the precinct came down and said, look, don't let them in, they're going to give you trouble. They let them in, they caused unruly behavior, destroyed the place, and as the police were taking them out, they took out a gun and shot 3 people, 1 fatally. a young 20-year-old girl. Neighborhood was upset, came to the board as they tried to get back their license. We said no, the SLA was great, they didn't give it to them. 4 years in court. They just opened up again problem. Their employee went to set their place on fire, made the place. So I have a couple of locations that keep repeating itself. I believe the landlords are part of the problem too. They're looking for their money, they don't care who they bring in, there's no way of checking these people out. I need your help on that. So if you can help me with this and we can get some control, we'll have some control over our community. That's what I'm asking tonight.
Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. Obviously, repeat offenders, bad operators that have chronic problems should be dealt with. You know, overall, I think the industry is a really good, positive, and good acting industry, but when there are bad operators, it really does cast a shadow on everything and everyone. And I know that you have done outreach to all the city agencies. I encourage you to take the opportunity to meet with some of the top brass of both the city and state agencies to reiterate your experience and to make sure. We have an officer here that would like to speak with you in the front. But I think, you know, there are voids. There are voids in the approach on how to deal with chronic operators. Part of it is outreach before enforcement and possibly education, reiteration, mediation. One thing I didn't mention that we have here tonight and that we have at all of our meetings are free mediation services. And I think that is something that hasn't always been available but not maybe highlighted. I encourage you, after you speak with the officer and any of the other city agencies that are here, to also go to the mediation table and see if these people are actually, the operators are willing to sit and have a professional mediation services and come up with some agreement. However, if this is an operator that truly doesn't care and is dangerous, then we have some pretty great agencies that I think can help take care of that. As you mentioned, the SLA did revoke their license once, and if they meet that criteria, I'm sure they'll do it again. So thank you for bringing that. And chronic issues are on our list.
If you don't mind me saying so. It also affects the other bars.
Yeah.
We have a catering hall, and they're coming to me.
I understand, and I'd be happy to speak with you as well. I think Ray Martin, who is our community liaison, you should give him your contact as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, ma'am, the referral later on after the meeting. Just
Oh,
meet
yes,
with-
there's officer here.
You can meet with Inspector Valdez after the meeting to discuss it. He's your grassroots guy. I mean, just to point out, obviously, it's a careful balancing act when it comes to policing, you know, bars, nightclubs, taverns, you know, the needs of the bar owner to perform business, you know, as well as the residents in the area who just want to live in peace and harmony. So, you know, we're cognizant of that. It's a very careful balancing act. You know, we're training our police officers, in particular our neighborhood coordination officers, you know, in more mediation techniques. Our first rule of business isn't to go in there and close a bar down, issue summonses, and threaten and assault and padlock places. That's certainly not our first rule of thought. But if we're talking about places that violate rules of law, acts of violence, then there's no room for mediation, and we're going to take that as seriously as humanly possible, I assure
Give
you.
him an attaboy. That's the 110 precinct.
We also have, you know, the Commissioner Bishop here from Small Business Services, and I also and many others here, and I feel that sometimes they are bad operators, but sometimes they just don't know better or could know better. And you know, there's a lot of services that are available that many operators don't know about, and it's our job to work with all of these city agencies to ensure that they know the difference between right and wrong.
So I'm going to take that as a 30-second cue to promote our services. For those in the room who are not familiar with small business services, we are the agency that helps businesses start, expand, and operate. If you are an operator in this building and you're not familiar with some of those services, I'll be definitely happy to talk to you. Some of it, and I think some of the questions I heard earlier in terms of access to capital, We do help businesses with access to capital. Last year, we were able to connect businesses to over $52 million in capital. They are loans, so I just want to be clear with that. But one of the things that I want to make sure that every business owner knows is that as part of the mayor's focus on bringing transparency to the regulatory environment, if you do not have account on NYC Business, so how many people are actually familiar with NYC Business? Just show of hands. Okay, good, so that's why I'm here. So if you go to nyc.gov/business, you can create an account for your particular business. And this is important, especially for bar operators, restaurant operators, et cetera, because one of the things that we did was we worked closely with with 311, and when you create that account, you will then be able to see all the permits that you have with the different agencies, and as we roll out updates, you'll be able to renew those permits, but most importantly, you'll be able to see 311 complaints against your business. That is one of the areas we've heard from time and time again that business owners and bar owners don't know that they're being a bad actor unless they have a good relationship with PD and they're checking in with the community board. But that is also a good area to see where, what the community thinks about your business. So certainly we can talk a little bit more about that as the night goes on or later on in terms of how to actually create that account.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Hello, my name is Rob Solano. I serve on Community Board 1 in Williamsburg and Greenpoint. I've been there for 10 years now on the State Liquor Authority Committee. And it's the last month we had 35 new liquor licenses and 45 renewals in the committee. And I would say over the last 10 years, the most important change that I've seen in our committee is that we have now 1 or 2 local small business owners that have liquor licenses on the committee. And I would say in the early beginning, most of our committee reports were based on emotion and fear and really no coherent facts. So sorry about that, SLA. But recently, I think they're more direct and more specific. And I think they add incredible value because they can call, there's no kids, they can call bullshit in a meeting and when their security plan isn't coherent or if the business plan doesn't make any sense and it just seems like this operator has no idea what they're doing. It's important to us as community board to understand that, and it's only possible when we have people that have establishments on the community board. Has there been any thoughts to sending an ambassador to these subcommittee meetings or community board or having members on the community? That's probably more difficult to have the members on it because it's appointed by the board president, but having like a volunteer business owner to be on that to tell them, look, that's a good plan, that's not a great plan, or that person's a bad actor from Manhattan, just so you have an idea. Has that been thought of?
Thank you for your comment. And I think obviously it's important that community boards really represent the community, and that has to be residents and business owners and entertainers and patrons alike. And the value of that is being able to have maybe a business mentor of sorts to mentor the new businesses coming in on what is a good and bad operation, how to be a good versus a bad neighbor. I hope that the Office of Nightlife can be that virtual mentor, and on our website and through all the guidelines of all the city agencies, checklists with FDNY and safety measures so that you can go in a one-stop shop way to be able to see what does a good business look like? What does a good neighbor look like? And, but yeah, I think it's important, and I think as conversations come up, whether it be at City Hall or in City Council regarding how to do better government when it comes to community boards, you and many others should be speaking up, but I feel very comfortable that that's a good idea. Thank you.
All right, so I don't have any questions. I just want to answer that one. What can the Office of Nightlife do for me and for everyone, fellow New Yorkers? 2 very easy talking points. Number 1, the RAVE Act, Reducing Americans' Vulnerability to Ecstasy. It's a bunch of nonsense passed in 2003, which has resulted in nothing but Giuliani shutting down a bunch of pop and party places and and actually increase danger, okay? Because you know why kids OD at festivals? Is because when they see these canine drug dogs, they get shook, and all they think is, you know what, let me just take everything I have now, instead of responsibly using these little by little, like how they do in Europe, where, by the way, they have drug checking boots, okay? They use the reagent testing kits to make sure that you know what you're taking and it's not adulterated or anything like that. So that's one. Number two, I emailed de Blasio about this. He told me to talk to the liquor board, one of you people. And this is about, okay, so it's a common misconception, you know, that venues in New York have to provide water, you know, like free water. No, restaurants do. But you would think if there was one type of venue that should, you know, mandate free water, it would be bars, right? The one that's inherently most dangerous, right? Giving out alcohol. But no, they don't have to. They don't have to. So, you know what? I've frequented awesome places such as Bossa Nova Civic Club and Nowadays where they just have a big tank of water just on the bar. You know, you just go and feed yourself. It's really easy. It's perfect, okay? And there's no reason why any bar, tavern, or this sorts can do, they can do the exact same thing. You know what? If someone orders a cocktail or a beer, just give them a little cup of water too. It's that easy. It's gonna sober them up a little better. It's just safer overall. It's gonna, there you go. Those are the two main things, okay? You can't talk about, oh, we want things to be safe if you're encouraging irresponsible drug use by not taking it, like, you know, by looking at it realistically, okay? So shout out to SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and the Good Samaritan Act. I digress. I'm done.
Thank you so much. I mean, I really applaud you for bringing this up and hope you don't leave before we get to address you. I think, you know, common sense approach to everything is always a good approach. And being able to set up policies based on real life so that people can be prepared and supported in a healthy way. I would be curious to know if the Department of Health and Mental DOHMH might, I know you have a lot of policies in regards to drug use and safe drug use and perhaps realistic approaches to ensure people don't have to go further underground in our...
Right, so this is something that we would bring to our agency.
Could you speak a little closer to the mic? Thank
Hi,
you.
good evening. Thank you for your comment. This is something that we will bring back and maybe discuss and see how we can help with that. We definitely want to promote no drug use. So this is something that we will discuss.
That's not realistic, and you can just talk about it now.
Okay, so we're not going back and forth, but excuse me, don't leave yet. One more thing, I just want to mention... Time out. Time out. So he doesn't have to be here to hear the answer. The reality is that common sense approaches are the best thing. I know for certain that your department is also passing out free Narcan.
Yes.
So that is actually the antidote to opioid overdose. And if the Department of Health was in complete and total denial about drug use, they would not be offering free OD antidotes to bars in order to prevent that. And so I think it's a really important service that you're doing. And just as the Office of Nightlife is following the lead of a lot of interesting ideas happening around the world, I think everyone is open to doing things better and healthier and safer for everyone. So that is what I would say. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Brian Duran. I'm a musician, alumni of Laguardia Community College, and a data researcher for the Creative Footprint. And I first want to thank the gentleman behind me because they actually started the conversation that I wanted to start, which was, you know, better wages for artists and better resources for artists. Holistically, we also have to consider the people that are actually performing at these venues. So what I wanted to do, or what I wanted to present is ways, and you mentioned it earlier, was workshops, town hall meetings, and also like fairs to kind of find out what resources are available, because sometimes there are these resources available in the city, but we just don't know about it because we are not aware of it. We are not talking about it. So having these discussions and having these roundtables and having these people meet together, and it's not only artists or venue owners, it's also residents as well, because not only do we have to understand the what we need to do in order to make nightlife better, or what are the problems, we also have to understand the why. And that discussion between residents, between neighborhood communities and artist communities should be more frequent in the city, especially in New York City, which is like the mecca of entertainment and music.
Yes, thank you. Well, I definitely want to reiterate the Freelance Isn't Free Act that was created. I think, you know, labor, safety, and fairness is a top priority of this administration. And we, as an Office of Nightlife, I'm very excited about the prospects of doing hospitality industry job fairs, seminars. I also encourage you also to look into the Freelance Hub that will be launched next week. That is going to be a great source of information, and I 100% agree that it is about education and communication for virtually every issue that we're talking about here tonight. It's about humanizing each other and having real-life human conversations and learning more about how to be better businesses, better operators, better neighbors, and how to get supported. So, thank you.
I'd like to call the next group of speakers on deck. Steve Lewis, Jairo Rodriguez, Alexi Keynes, Freddie Cosmo, and Alex Cesaris. You were next, sorry. You were next, yeah.
First rule in nightlife, no line cutting. I'm just joking.
My name is Gary Taylor. I'm a 14-year owner of Tropics Bar and Lounge in Rego Park. I'd first like to give a shout out to the 112 Precinct. They've been a partner for us, and having a relationship with the precinct is a big deal. With that said, owning a bar, as most of you know, if you own a bar or restaurant, is not easy. And you go to work every day, you work hard, you invest a lot of money, and you hope for the best. When you have outside influences that affect your business on a daily basis, it hurts. Just recently, last August, when Vision Zero went into effect, in Rego Park, we lost approximately half of our parking. I know parking issues have been a problem, and there's been a lot of meetings in reference to that. I'm a little disappointed the Department of Transportation isn't here. But as a business owner, being in my business every day, I look out at Queens Boulevard and see minimal bikers on the bike lanes where parking could be utilized. I'm a realist. I believe that bike lanes aren't going away, but the timing of when bike lanes are used becomes very important. In the winter, after 6, 7 o'clock, there are hardly zero bikers on the bike lanes. Why couldn't those lanes be looked at for parking after a certain time? Maybe after 7 o'clock, those bike lanes turn into parking for residents and patrons for parking. We have experienced, since August of last year, when the bike lanes went into effect and we lost parking, double-digit losses every month. It hurts, not only for me, but for other business owners along Queens Boulevard. So what I'm asking is if someone can visit with the Department of Transportation and maybe take another look of how this space is being utilized, and maybe we can turn the space that's used for bikes into parking for not only businesses, but also for residents who struggle to find parking after a certain time at night. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And
So
Yes, go please.
Sorry, because the Department of Transportation is not here, I'll take the bullet for this one. Because I work closely with the Department of Transportation, as you can imagine, because whenever there's a bike lane being considered, we also advocate for small businesses, and we talk about there's so many different types of configuration of bike lanes, whether it's protected, et cetera, et cetera. I am very familiar with Queens Boulevard. I actually have been out in Queens Boulevard. I'm not sure if it's in your particular area, but Ben's Deli, that particular whole block, and saw, you know, what you were talking about in terms of the utilization of the bike lanes. I will say that Queens Boulevard is a sensitive area, and one of the reasons why I say it's sensitive is you've been around the city for a long time. You remember Queens Boulevard was called a boulevard of death. And I think one of the challenges that we have, and I sympathize with you and all the business owners in the area, is balancing public safety versus the needs of all the communities. Since those bike lanes have been installed, there have been 0 deaths in that particular area. And when you talk about a life versus what the impact of it has on the community, I can't go to DOT and say, look, you have this is the impact that it's having on businesses, when they will come back to me and say, well, no one has died, right? So we certainly sympathize with you. I will be happy to come back out. One of the things I will give DOT credit is that if there's a configuration that that is not working for the overall community, they have been open to making changes. And I know long-term there is a capital plan to utilize the center median on Queens Boulevard, but that is, of course, a capital project. It is a very long-term plan. But I would be happy to follow up with you after this. And I'm not sure where your business is, but I will contact my DOT representative in Queens. We'll come back out, we'll take a look, and then we'll see what we can possibly do in that particular area.
Just one comment. I'm not looking for bike lanes to disappear.
Got it.
I'm looking at the timing issue.
Got it.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
When
and
you utilize it all, so that
got
has
it.
nothing to do with safety. If
Yep.
they're not being used, no one's going to get hit on a bike.
Yep.
So that's what I'm looking for.
I got you. So we'll follow up with you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Hi. Thank you for hearing us out. My name is Freddie Cosmo. I am a performance artist on the nightlife scene, and also by association a promoter and event producer, because they tend to go hand in hand. And I have a concern that is, I guess, more towards the NYPD. Earlier, a venue owner had mentioned safety inside of venues. My question is about performers, guests, and patrons, and what happens, and even workers, bartenders, specifically after the end of a night or the end of a shift, and the safety, basically the safety surrounding when everyone goes home. A couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to go to a private event with the NYPD at the Stonewall Inn to sort of discuss different topics when there was a very high-profile incident with a transsexual who was assaulted in the bathroom, and it was in headlines and things like that. Since then, I haven't really heard much about the issue. It's worth noting, this is sort of a nuanced sort of thing, because this was a queer person of color. And the issue, my concern is that queer people of color are less likely to report things, go to the police, things like that. There's an entirely different approach that we have, when dealing with police, and a different fear and shame that comes with that. So my question, I guess my concern and my question is, how will the Nightlife Board work with the NYPD, specifically dealing with queer people of color, performers, bartenders? I've seen other incidents as well on Facebook, people who I know who've been bashed after coming from work, bartenders who've been bashed, beat up, that sort of thing. And just kids, there's even just kids who get in sticky situations at the end of the night who don't really expect to be, who are led on by people with just bad intentions. So I'm sure that you can sort of understand the unique position, of a Black or Latino person, in nightlife, and especially in this divisive environment that America has unfortunately become. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for shedding light on this very important and very real issue today, and really always, it's always a pervasive issue that needs to be addressed time and time and time again. And I think the best way to address that is being able to continue the conversation, bringing it to light. Many of the members on the advisory board as well represent the LGBTQ community. And it is a conversation that happens not only with NYPD, but really the entire administration and our state. It is something that we as a city need to remember on a daily basis, that safety and security and the freedom to express yourself as safely as possible is the top priority. Again, it's the top priority for everyone, for this city, for the administration, for the police, and for this industry. The gay community is essential to who we are, our culture, our economy, our identity, and every individual must be protected and feel free to walk home safely. And I don't know if there's a particular task force for that per se, but I think it is a point of extreme importance. And I feel confident with our advisory board that it's going to be a priority. And we are very happy if you had any ideas to, within your own community, to contribute thoughts about how the city can make it safer for your community. Reach out to our office, to NYPD, Ray Martin in or our advisory board, Nightlife at media.nyc.gov should be there. And contribute ideas that we can get behind and support. And I think let's just continue the conversation. And bringing it to light and not having it be in the shadows is the best way to deal with it and make it go away. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Steve Lewis, and I'm a former operator of about 15 to 20 nightclubs in New York. Some of the biggest nightclubs in New York history I operated and was responsible for. I also wrote a blog about nightlife for about 8 years, dealing with the business of nightlife that was read by most of the industry on a daily basis. Currently, I'm semi-retired. I live in this neighborhood across from a really noisy bar, so I'm aware of what that means. Right now, I design nightclubs, and I have many clients who were operators in New York who find it easier to operate out of town now. One client, I looked at about a half a dozen places in New York City, and they were unable to get a liquor license that would go past 1 o'clock or sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, which makes it economically infeasible. So they are now building, this client is building out in Westbury. It's good for the SLA, they collect the taxes either way, but the city is losing jobs, and the cost of the build out is about $1 million, which is going into Long Island contractors, and 40 or 50 employees will be employed out in Long Island instead of New York. I've watched this nightclub business evolve from a little thing to a big thing. But this man who spoke first, right over here, who talked about the problems of the community, I sort of agree with him. Nightlife can be really bad if you live in the city. People get sick, drunks aren't always fun, there's a lot of noise. But I think there's a solution which will solve quite a lot of the problems here. First of all, nightclubs need to live past 1 o'clock. They have to go to 4. This is not Boston, this is not LA. They don't have Korean delis open 4 o'clock in the morning. They wouldn't survive. But here, we live in nightlife. Our cab industry would die if nightlife didn't exist. But a solution that I've always felt was viable, but nobody was ever listening. And I really think that it's wonderful that you are here listening. That never happened. I address the police department. I've always felt that paid detail, which I've seen in banks and businesses around town, where a police officer is paid by that business to stand there in uniform and create a presence, would be great for the larger venues in New York, where 100 persons or more, they would employ a policeman or two who would stand there, who could who could tell, instead of the security guards asking the cabs to stop hunking the people who are drunk to get help. There's so many things they could do as a presence. Plus, New York City nightclubs, as most people in this world know, are soft targets. In a world of terror, I think it's important to have armed police officers there as a presence, people trained to deal with emergencies.
Thank
Security
you for your
guards.
comments, sir. Your 2 minutes are up. Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you so much.
Great question. Tricky answer, though. I know we've discussed this and pondered it in the past. We have many venues where police officers work paid detail, where basically they're off duty now working for an outside employer, TD Bank, Yankee Stadium, Barnes & Noble. But what happens now is the police officer is now a paid employee of that venue. To do that now for a licensed establishment serving alcohol would probably put some legal indemnification issues upon the police officer as well as the agency. So it's a tricky balance. I mean, I'll certainly ponder it, with my law department again and the police commissioner. But I know it's been explored in the past. It was shot down for legal reasons. It's having that armed guard basically now working for the bar and not the police department anymore, becomes problematic for our agency. So it's something that's worthy of a second look, I assure you, sir. But a very good question.
Yes, we'll be creating a multi-agency working group beyond this five-borough listening tour that will look pretty much like this table here, so that all of the city agencies can work in uniform and in support of the industry and the community together. And I think that this is an issue that will most definitely make it to the table to revisit, because it is a tough business running clubs, and club owners are club owners, not cops. And it's a hard thing to navigate sometimes. So thank you for the question, and it will be revisited.
Hey, good evening. My name is Alex Sasseris. I'm the co-owner and operator of Pink's in the East Village on 10th Street at First Avenue. I'm not aware if you guys know what's going on. Our business is at the epicenter of this crazy issue that has exploded in the last month, where the Department of Sanitation, who lost their lease 4 years ago and had 4 years to figure out what to do with a certain amount of trucks, they've relocated them to certain streets in the East Village. East 10th Street, I think 23rd Street, 60th Street. If you guys are aware of, what the East Village is, it's one of the best nightlife neighborhoods in New York, and it's a small residential street. It's very narrow, and about a month ago, our parking disappeared in front of my business. I have a catering business in the morning now that I can't get to with our vehicles to load up and take away orders because the parking was taken away for the Department of Sanitation. So I said, okay, let's see what happens, and then a week or two went by. This is about a month ago now. And then I show up to work on a Saturday night, and I have 5 garbage trucks parked directly in front of my business. Now, there's a luxury apartment building to my left and a regular apartment building to my right, and we are a food establishment and a bar that is open till 4. And our sales are down incredibly on the weekends, which seems to be where the most concentration of trucks is. Now, my question is, how does a city agency like the Department of Sanitation not communicate with the NYPD, the FDNY, Small Business, Department of Health, and the DEP? Because obviously, besides the smell and the disgust of having garbage trucks in front of our restaurant, I mean, literally, my cellar door where I receive orders for food is 5 feet away from the back of a garbage truck filled with garbage. Now, okay, that's one thing. Now, we've been talking about safety. The patrol of the 9th Precinct can no longer see my bar at 2, 3 in the morning on the weekends or weeknights with these trucks parked in front of my venue. So, I mean, not only is 10th Street now a garbage depot, it's also a urinal, because drunk bar patrons of the East Village now stop on 10th Street and just urinate on 10th Street because they're blocked completely from everyone's view. I mean, I've never seen a guy on the street take such a comfortable public urination. I mean, I saw it the other day. I took video of it. I've been on the news. I've been on ABC, CBS, Fox, The Post, Evie Grieve. I mean, we've gone to CB3 meetings. We're in touch with Councilwoman Rivera's office and Susan Stetzer at CB3, and we're not getting any answers. So how do government agencies not communicate with each other when there was a huge fire a week ago on 11th and 1st, 6 alarms, something like that. I mean, the whole building burned. What if that had happened to the apartment building to the right of Pink's? And there's 5 garbage trucks. I mean, how is the FDNY going to negotiate going around 5 garbage trucks to put out a fire? How is the NYPD going to keep my business safe in the apartment buildings to the right or left? We're not getting any answers, and we just celebrated our 4th birthday. I'm afraid that there will not be a 5th. And this is my life savings here, so.
Thank you so much for coming to Queens for your Manhattan issue. That's what.
20 years, Queens resident.
Nice. All right, we're going to defer to our colleague here first, Commissioner Bishop from Small Business Services.
So while you were talking, I was emailing the Commissioner of Sanitation to get an answer for you. So one of the things we do at Small Business Services is help business owners like yourselves navigate other city agencies. So whether it's an issue like this where a city agency is causing harm to your business or doing something like putting a bike lane in, or you need a truck loading zone, et cetera, that is something that we would do. We have a business outreach team, so that team is responsible for going out and negotiating on your behalf. This is a larger issue, so I'm not going to tell you that I have the solution to this. I'm aware, because this has come up before, and hopefully I get a response and I'll let you know what I can say publicly. But if you do have any other issues where you are dealing with a city agency, whether it's my counterparts up here or other agencies, we have advocates that will step in to actually negotiate on your behalf. So I will, because this is a very specific and much larger issue, I'll get back to you personally on what I hear back.
I'd like to hear from the fire department and police department as well. I mean, how does this fly for you guys? I'm just curious.
Well, sorry. Just to be fair, it's not because this is a Manhattan thing. I'm not sure if they are equipped to actually answer that question.
Right. I mean, once again, it's a larger ask, a larger issue. I mean, obviously, we're not happy with the fact that building visibility to buildings is blocked. Obviously, that's something that we don't want in any regard, because we like to see inside as we're driving by, walking down the other side of the street. Obviously, for a multitude of reasons, we want to have that visibility factor. So I certainly agree with you, but it is a larger issue, which is the commissioner is going to try to assist you on that one.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jairo Rodriguez. I am a member of the Community Board 3. We trying to get information to the people that come and apply for the liquor license and to open a business. But it happened to be that now with the new regulation, I don't know what, the nightlife change, and everybody thinks that they can open a coffee shop and move the tables and start dancing. And that's when this small business owner, they losing the money. Because what happened, they apply for a beer and wine license, and then they get girls to dance over there for $2 or $5, whatever they dance for. And then the police come over, the building department come over, the fire department come over, they got a summons. And 1, 2, 3, they're gonna be losing what they, the savings that they invest in the business. That means we would like to know how you people from the nightlife change the rules. We know that it used to be use group 6 to dance, right? Now we want to know the answer for what? What group? Or everybody can dance, open a pizza place and dance? I don't know. That means we want to know. We are the members over here, and we want to know, because even the police, sometimes they don't even know what to do.
Yeah, thank you so much for raising this issue. I know that with the repeal of the cabaret law, as much as there was a lot of excitement and celebration because it was really repealing an archaic law that for many reasons was rooted in anti-LGBTQ and people of color to prevent dancing in those type of establishments, that it really created other type of confusion and problems. So the revocation of this cabaret law, while it was a celebration, created more confusion now. So now what? I think perhaps one of my colleagues can help to explain that there's a little bit more work left to do here in regards to zoning and so forth.
Sure. I'm Alexis Wheeler from the Department of City Planning. This is and is not an issue with zoning. So typically, if it's an establishment with under 200 people, then it does fall into use group 6. And then larger than that, it's use group 12A. But when it's use group 6, from a zoning perspective, it's not really treated too differently from a retail establishment or a cafe. And so this is something that we have been hearing some concern about, and I think we certainly would like to see how the working group that has already been mentioned earlier would help to better address some of these issues, because for the most part, you know, zoning is a very large and general sweeping tool, and so it isn't really something that's been cultivated to treat something like dancing specifically. And so I think that with the help of the working group and really sort of the multi-agency perspective, we'll be able to dive deeper into this issue.
I think a few different agencies, perhaps Department of Building or SLA, might also want to address, because it's not just about zoning. Like, you still need to have proper egress and safety issues that enable dancing, not just a repeal of a law.
I'm Derek Lee. I'm from the Department of Buildings. I would like to invite you and every one of the business owner or homeowners here to come to the building department. We are open specifically excuse me, for business owners and homeowners every Tuesday night between 4 and 6:30 or 6:45. Don't come at 7 because we close at 7. To answer common questions such as your cabaret issues. We've been doing this for many, many years. Unfortunately, it's not been well publicized. We have plan examiners to review safety issues. If you receive a violation for a sign or something that you feel that it does not belong to you, act quickly, come to us, and our inspectors are on staff, and the inspector will be able to help you to navigate and explain to you whether that violation applies to your premise. Sometimes it's issued to the wrong location because people like to put fancy house numbers on their property for whatever reason, you know, and mistakes are made. Not a lot, but they do. If you are planning for a new establishment, a new venue, and for the musicians out there, you can come and we will help you. My son's a musician, you know, so I appreciate what you're going through, and I'm still going through. But please come to us, and for once you will get a truthful answer because it won't cost you a dime. It's all paid for by your taxes. So please come down to the building department. Any building department is in all 5 boroughs every Tuesday night between 4 and 6:45.
But can I ask, since you are the people that is going to make the decisions and everything, why you don't supply to all the community boards the rules that has to apply? I mean, in that way that these people that apply, they can be, you know, at least we can tell them, listen, you can do this, you can do that. But these people, they blind. They bring somebody else representing them, that they're going to be getting the license, that they're going to do this. They disappear with the money. I mean, we see a lot of things over there that, I mean, it's ridiculous.
We do. Our Queens Project, intergovernment advocates, they meet with every community board. They meet with the borough board every month to navigate any issues they may have. Our office answers their questions if they have a concern. So we are very reachable. All our statistics are online. Every location can be pulled up. Every permit you can see online in real time. Again, if you have any issues, come down or contact us. We have a customer service line, and we're more than happy to help you.
So one of the things working in government that I realize is that we just suck at marketing. And I'm really happy that the Office of Nightlife is with us, because one of the things that we have at SBS, and a lot of business owners may or may not know about this, is that When you go to nyc.gov, and it takes about 10 minutes to put in all the information about your business, we have a wizard that will spit out every single permit and rules that you need to abide by. So that helps you, the business owner, understand these are the things that I need to be responsible for. But we go one step further. If it's a little bit complicated, you can, sit down with DOB, or one of our compliance advisors could come to your business, and we do what we call an assessment for the most common violations. So this was an approach that we used. We looked at where most of the businesses were being fined, in what particular areas, and we created what we call the most common violations tool. So we can do an assessment of your business and cover Department of Health, DEP, sanitation, DCA, FDNY, and DOB in terms of the most common violations. And we will tell you these are the things that you need to look out for. Now, obviously, it's not everything, but it's a good start. And again, as my colleague said, this is a free service for all small businesses. You have paid for it. But one of the things that we struggle with is awareness, and really getting the word out that this service is available right now. So certainly, if anyone is interested, they can either call 301, they can see me, and we work with the council members and community boards to spread the word about this particular service. So thank you for bringing this up.
And the Office of Nightlife will also be consolidating all of the guidelines from all the city agencies onto our one website as a one-stop shop for easier access to the information that you're searching for. Because obviously each of these agencies have tremendous resources, but again, awareness and how to get to it is really creating the bridge is the problem. But I appreciate your idea about perhaps doing a one-sheet explaining the changes to the cabaret law repeal, and to distribute that perhaps to the community boards so that they can be more informed on how to make their decisions when it comes to licensing. And I don't think that's a very big ask at all. So thank you so much. Mike, did you want to mention something about dancing and cabaret as well from SLA?
Yes, Michael Jones, Deputy CEO of the New York State Liquor Authority, and I want to comment about the cabaret law repeal. That was a city law and ordinance that, I'm a state agency, we have state laws and regulations, and it really didn't have an effect on us because we have our own way to regulate dancing. It's part of the application that the licensee applicant submits. I think it's 30 pages or so, and on page 14 is called the method of operation. And on that page we ask, will there be dancing? Will there be DJs? Will, the type of music? And there are a number of boxes to be checked. So, and it's also part of the notice to the community board. When you apply for a license, you give notice to the community board, and I think that's something that is asked, and the community board should be aware that there may be dancing. Because of the cabaret law, most of the applicants didn't have dancing. It restricted a lot of people for the opportunity. But now that the cabaret law is repealed, you have the opportunity to dance, but you have to overcome these other obstacles at this table before you come to us. But you still have to give notice to us, and it's called the method of operation change. It's a form. I'm expecting about 80,000 of them, but that is how you do it. If, as Bill Parcells once said about football teams, you are what your record says you are. And I say you are what your application says you are. So when you apply for your license and you checked off or did not check off dancing, dancing is not permitted. So you have to file a method of operation change, which is another form. And normally we will approve a method of operation change. And that is the proper way when you're amend your liquor license.
And that's just one of the aspects of dancing. There's buildings department and egress. There's fire department and safety and sprinklers. So whether or not a venue can or cannot dance or allow dancing has very almost little to do with the repeal of needing a permit to have dancing. You have to have all of these other agencies get on board and check the right box at the State Liquor Authority. So it's complex, but because of the repeal, it is a conversation about how to get more clarity and more multi-agency uniformity and cooperation and education to the community board. So I appreciate that, and we will work on creating that one sheet to distribute, I think, would be a good idea. Thank you.
Real quick, I'd like to call the final group of comment cards that we've received. If you would still like to speak tonight, please get a comment card from the lobby and feel free to bring it forward. The final four speakers will be Alexi Keynes, Sharon Fredericks, Benham Jones, and Safira Hill.
Come on down.
And sir, you were next.
Hi, my name is Alexi Kearns, and I'm the founder of Hooch app. We have a few hundred thousand.
Speak a little closer to the mic.
Hi, my name is Alexi Kearns. Good evening. I'm a founder of Hooch app. We have a few 100,000 members and approaching 1 million. I'm a club doorman at Hotel Chantel, where we accommodate over 1,500 people throughout the night, and the team employs 200 employees. And I live in a house kitchen where I live above 2 bars and across the street from another bar. So I think this is more of a statement than a fact. I think the city is fundamentally flawed in where we don't address the main variable, which is the people actually going out to these places. For example, we have CenterCon coming up. Everyone participating is a fine human being, but in that particular day, as a consumer mentality and the consumer behavior, as a group of people together, for some reason, law's broken. I live across the street from a bar, and normally it's great. On rare occasion, it's loud. I think the only variable there, again, is just the people attending. The people that come to our club, and again, great group of people. Occasionally, there's someone who has too many drinks. I think the city needs to, or as a group of people, we all need to figure out how to focus on consumer education as it comes to you and the relationship with the city, you and the relationship with your neighbors, and educate them. I am fortunate to travel quite a bit. I've been to Amsterdam, and I think most people go there for the reason why people come to New York City, the environment, the arts, the drugs. But the city is super clean. No one's pissing on the street. And they have campaigns where they have locals advertised because they're part of the community. And I think that's what's missing. I think New York is just, no one's actually from New York, right? Thanksgiving is coming up and everyone leaves New York City because no one's a local. It just seems that way, right? As a club operator, I just see that the city's empty, the streets are empty. So we need to figure out a way how to create that bond with the consumer to understand that it's their responsibility and their accountability that will employ everyone, right? That bar, the after hours, it's not the place. It's a certain group of select people occasionally have too much, right? We just need to figure out how to address that and educate them, again, as a group of people and as it pertains to the rest of us.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, and I agree. I think, having this brand new Office of Nightlife is sort of this center stone for not only all the city agencies, but to be a liaison to the patrons as well, and to the operators. And I think that it's not just about best practices as an operator, but there should be rules of conduct and best practices as a patron, as well as a neighbor. How to be a good neighbor to a venue, how a venue could be a good neighbor to a resident, and how to be a good guest. And I like the idea, especially around the world, where they have campaigns, education campaigns, that can be lighthearted and can be entertaining, but can remind people you're in a residential community. You're in a thriving place where people are sleeping and where you are responsible to make sure that you are handling yourself in a mature way, even if you're in a Santa outfit. So I think that's definitely one of the things that the Office of Nightlife will do, is to create best practices for patrons, as well as residents, as well as business owners, so that we can all coexist in a fun, safe, and responsible way. And I appreciate you reminding me that that's a priority. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Safira Hill. I own a small establishment, a small bar in Brooklyn in Fort Greene. My space seats 22 people. And my question is in regard to ordering from distributors in particular. I don't know whether this is SLA or SBS. As a 22-seat establishment, I'm expected to meet the same order minimums as whatever club, capacity, can hold 1,500 people, if you know what I mean. I don't have the storage, which means I have to order several times in a month. Each time that I do order, I'm not meeting the minimums because obviously my space, can't hold those minimums. With Southern in particular, the delivery fees went from $20 a year or two ago to $22.50, and just in August they went up to $27.50. So I'm ordering maybe 8 to 10 times a month, and I'm accruing these delivery fees. I'm wondering if there's any way any of these departments could somehow work with the distributors to create a sliding scale depending on the space of the venue. Obviously, I'm never going to order, $1,200 worth of liquor unless I get myself a storage space, somewhere off-site. So it's a growing concern. I'm open 2 years now in December, and in the beginning it wasn't a big deal, and now I'm just seeing it all pile up every single week, every week, and at this point we're spending thousands of dollars in just delivery fees just to get my orders. So I'd love
I
some
hear
help
you.
there.
Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I don't know if it's necessarily an SLA or SBS. However, from an Office of Nightlife perspective, I think a meeting with the distributors is most definitely in order. They're a huge part of the industry. And I think it would be interesting if you, and perhaps we can do something once we have our newsletter and all your great emails, and doing an outreach on maybe some of the issues that operators that come up with the liquor distributors, and to be a messenger for the industry and to try and get some more communication and fairness. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and please send an email to this email address and bring that to our attention. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Sharon Frederick. Tonight we're standing here because New York City, in my opinion, is one of the best places to live and work and earn for nightlife. It's the city that does not sleep. It gives numerous opportunities to immigrants, to people from all walks of life, and it's known as the city. If you get to New York City, you will make it. I want to take a special appreciation speech tonight to thank all of you that have, made this special effort and this group together to help nightlife. We started out, I'm the manager from Aussie Nightclub. We started out with a patron level of 1,500 people on any given night that we're open. And I'd like to say that the 102, along with the SLA, along with the buildings department, Mike Jones, for instance, have given us an enormous amount of resources, which I want to advocate to business owners here. New York City has a lot of resources. You just have to go out and get it. You have to ask for it, and you have to work along with the different departments that are set up there to make it happen for you. We started out not knowing, and in a blind eye, we have been told, we have learned new procedures, we have learned new methods of operations that actually work, because not everything will work according to the plan. And I just want to say, especially thank you for providing those things to us and for allowing nightlife to grow, proliferate, and be one of the better cities that we've all lived in. So thank you for that, and I just want to take that moment to say that.
All right. Thank you so much. That's what we're all doing here, right? Agreed.
Hello, my name is Benham Jones. I represent a group of restaurants in Astoria called Queen's Comfort, Flat Tops, and Comfortland. Just want to thank you all and thank the community. It's been so much practical advice and insight. This should happen all the time. So many of the questions that I wanted to ask have already been asked, but one thing I was thinking about in terms of the relationship, the gentleman from Nowadays was talking about how it can be, there's this antagonistic atmosphere between club owners and the city. Neighborhood families is sort of bringing nightlife out into the daytime. We have a number of outdoor street fairs and events that happen in Astoria in our community that are always the same thing. They feel sort of like city corporate, very carnival. None of the local businesses are invited to participate or be involved. But if you use these street fairs and the city park culture to inject disco and queer and art identities, the families would get to see that nightlife is, as the guy from Nowadays said, it's about us having a good time. And it's about us making a city that is full of art. And yeah, I was just wondering if there was any plans for the City of Nightlife to do daytime programming in its campaign.
I love that idea. I mean, everybody loves a good street fair, for sure. It's very New York, but it could be definitely more New York. And I think it is a great opportunity for the nightlife businesses to interact with the daytime communities. And this is, again, what these town hall listening tours is about hearing great ideas. And I think when we do have our multi-agency working groups and see how perhaps we can make that happen, I would love for the Office of Nightlife to be involved in helping to make something cool like that come to fruition. So I don't know if we have any more speakers, but I just want to thank everyone again so much for coming and to remind you that we have not only this incredible panel of people and city and state agencies here, but there are also tables outside if you have individual issues that you didn't want to bring up here. And we have 3 more meetings, Staten Island, the Bronx, and Manhattan. And you don't have to be from that borough to speak at that borough. So please share the information, tell people about it, tell the residents to come out that this is about them as well. More businesses, more artists, and please just continue to be involved with us, and we're gonna make New York nightlife even better. So thank you everyone so much for coming. Thank you.